We have launched over 30 podcasts and we work with people all over the world to help them get their podcast launched and get it out in the world so that they can share their message. We know people are always wondering, who should podcast and why they should podcast, what podcast equipment they need, when they should podcast. So many questions about podcasting, and we are here to answer them. We love podcasting. We think it is one of the biggest hacks for you to be able to grow your business in a way where you're growing your community, growing it sustainably, and making amazing connections. So Maria and I want to dive in, and we're going to start with the who of podcasting.
Let's dive into the 5 W's of podcasting. First, we're going to start with the who. Who should have a podcast? And really, these days, anybody can have a podcast. We think, in terms of who benefits the most from a podcast, it should really be entrepreneurs, thought leaders, business owners, people who are really looking to establish themselves as an authority in a space and or drive traffic and leads to their business, right? So podcasting is a great way to get more eyes on your offerings, on your services, whatever you're kind of dreaming up in your business or in your entrepreneurship day to day. But it's actually also a really great tool for networking as well. So this is an awesome tool to have conversations with people that you might not otherwise be able to have conversations with, and use their audience to drive new traffic to your business. So whether you are looking to just build more authority in your niche or you're looking to drive sales, podcasting can be a great tool for you.
We also find all the time that people never feel like their niche is good enough for a podcast, right? You're worried that maybe who's going to listen to your podcast. You never know who's going to kind of connect with it. But if you have customers and you have people who are interested in what you're talking about, they're going to be interested in you in podcast format too, right? We're always getting caught up in clips on social. We're always interested in what people are posting. It's the same with podcasting. It's just a little more intimate. So we have clients who are business coaches. We've got clients who are coaches for moms. We also have, non-coach clients, right? We have an amazing client who does custom rugs, and he teaches people how to clean their rugs and talks to other designers. And not only does he use that as a networking tool, he uses it as an amazing way to educate his clients. So you can think about your niche and think about, is there somebody who wants to listen to you talk about what it is that you got to talk about? And if your niche doesn't have a podcast, probably means that you're supposed to start it. Maria already touched on this, but there are just so many reasons a business owner should have a podcast. And even if you're not sure if you are finesse enough to have a podcast, or maybe you don't have the audience you think that you want for a podcast, it is just the most amazing tool, whether it be for networking with other people in your industry, creating community with people who are already your super fans, or getting in front of new people. Podcasting is the biggest hack for growing your network and growing your community. And ultimately, we think growing your business. So I don't want to say everyone should have a podcast, but if you're even to have an inkling to have one, you should have one.
And if you want to have one, let's dive into the what of podcasting. And I think when people think about the what, they think a lot about the conversation, the recording, right? Getting in front of the microphone, getting out of your own way, getting out of your own head, and figuring out what those episodes are actually going to look like. And that is the most important part: sitting down, having those meaningful conversations, deciding how long you want your episodes to be, how often you want to release them. Do you want to have guests, and figuring out what that looks like? But then once you hit record and share your message with the world, there's actually a lot more that happens after that. And that's really what our team loves to help clients with. So once you finish your recording, whether that be solo or with a guest, then you're going to move into the editing phase. And so figuring out what you want your intro and outro to be, ads, all that fun stuff. How much editing do you want to incorporate? A lot of our clients love it to just be super authentic and raw. Some like a more polished podcast. So deciding what you want that to look like is really important. And then moving into the sort of distribution aspect of your podcast. So you're going to want to think about titles, show notes, all the written components of a podcast, as well as the distribution piece, which is where you're pushing it out to Spotify, Apple, and all those different platforms. And then the last piece, the fun piece, is the marketing, because people won't really just stumble across your podcast. You do have to be intentional about marketing it. So thinking about what kind of social media audiences or YouTube or all that good stuff, email lists, how do you want to get the message out to the world and drive people back to listen to your podcast? Okay, so you might be wondering, where are you going to record this podcast? And you likely have seen a lot of really cool, fancy podcasts where they're in studios, kind of like this one. And those are awesome for video content. Those are awesome for high profile guests. And when you can get into a studio, that's great. But probably not realistic if you're just getting started with podcasting. And really, you can do this from anywhere. So you could do this from your house, from your car. Christina's done it from hot tubs. Like, you could literally be anywhere. And we love tools like Riverside because they make recording podcasts on the go or at home. Super, super easy. It's a professional studio where you can either record by yourself or have guests. And it just makes it so easy to literally do it from anywhere. And you would be surprised. Some very big podcasters we know are just recording in their cars on Riverside with little mics. We'll put all the links for the stuff in the description below. So feel free to check that out. But there are so many tools that you can use to make it easy and just do it wherever is possible for you. So whether that be on the run or at home or in a studio, whatever works for you is the best solution.
Maria already mentioned a ton of tools, but one of the things I just wanted to mention as well is that it doesn't have to be expensive to make impact. So we've used $20 tools to help us have some of our best performing episodes. And so if you just really look at what makes sense for you and your audience and just get started, that is the best way to go. So that leads us to our final W, which is when. And of course, Maria and I are start today people. We are start before you're ready, just get it going. But we know that sometimes that can take a little bit of stress or a little bit of fear. And that's why resources like this are so good. Do a lot of learning, look into tools, but don't let that hold you back from getting started. So whether you work with an editing team like ours and you work and get full production done, or you do some of it yourself, all of those are great options, and your community is waiting for your message. So give it a try. They want to hear from you, and we can't wait to see your podcast on the top charts.